Tight rip today. We got things to do in the afternoon. We've got people coming in the studio to record other podcasts. We got an hour and 40 minutes here, Matthew. Let's have a good one today. I know we're
Let's rip it.
rip it and rip it, baby. We're gonna jump right into it. The price gods have crashed the price today, right before RHR. Crash may be a hyperbolic word, but we're sitting at 36,695 cuck bucks. One cuck buck's going to get you 2,725 sats. We are sitting at block height 735,055. We are currently 785 blocks away from the next difficulty adjustment, which is estimated to be 5.3% upward adjustment. Blocks are coming in at 9 minutes and 30 seconds on average. Whoa. Mempool popping right now. 31,741 transactions in Clark's mempool.
Yeah, supposedly Binance did a bunch of consolidation yesterday.
What are the average fees? Where are the fees at
So
right now?
just for the freaks, just to recap, what I mean by that is the number one driver of how much Bitcoin on-chain transaction costs you in terms of transaction fee is how many UTXOs, how many unspent transaction outputs you have on the input side. So if you imagine your Bitcoin wallet is like a regular wallet and you have a bunch of different bills in there, you have a bunch of different UTXOs that are all different amounts, 10 million sats, 5,000 sats, 10,000 sats. If you when you do a Bitcoin transaction, if you're trying to send a certain amount, it's going to combine those UTXOs on the input side. The more you have on that input side, the higher your transaction fee is going to be. So these Bitcoin exchanges like Binance or Coinbase or Cash App, they have a bunch of, they could have millions of UTXOs from all of their customers. Oftentimes, they're all these really small UTXOs. So if Bitcoin fees go up in the future, they're going to end up with a very high transaction fee burden. So what they do is they consolidate all of those UTXOs into one. I mean, to simplify it into one big UTXO, and then when they're sending transactions going forward, they only have to have one UTXO on the input side. They have a limited amount of UTXOs on the input side. So right now, apparently, Binance is consolidating all of those UTXOs at a very low fee because fees have been extremely low. Just in case fees go up in the future, they won't have a high fee burden. Now, individual users should consider this as well when fees are low, but just keep in mind that you have an additional privacy concern. That obviously, if you combine all of those UTXOs into one big UTXO, all that Bitcoin is linked to each other, and any previous transactions that have happened in the past could then be linked to the same user. Cheers.
Thank you for that UTXO breakdown. Another thing, so consolidating these UTXOs, if you're a big operator, is very important, and doing it when fees low can save your ass in the future. What happened in 2017? Didn't Coinbase have something like $8 million
Yeah.
worth of UTXOs that were unspendable, or they were
They were like
below?
close to, at least, right? So when the effective transaction fee is a high percentage of the total amount of Bitcoin you have, that becomes very painful to whoever's holding that Bitcoin. And if it gets to the point where the transaction fee is above the amount of the actual UTXO, then we call that dust, which is essentially a completely uneconomical output where you can't spend it. Because the transaction fee is higher than the amount.
Yeah. And so Coinbase learned the hard way. I mean, they're lucky. The fee market in 2017, it did the fees at one point did go higher than the subsidy. It was higher than 12 and a half Bitcoin at one point in December 2017. At that point in time,
They waited it out and then
yeah,
they were able to spend it. But if the fees had never gone back down, they would have been completely fucked.
yeah. And that $8 million worth of UTXOs that were dust could have increased to something like if Bitcoin 100x from there, 800 million.
Yep.
So be aware if you're operating in the space and you're operating with a lot of UTXOs, we should actually probably consolidate. We should DJ UTXO consolidation process. We need to think about a business on air here because shout outs coming in. that are paid for on chain. We have 2 shout outs this week. Both were over Lightning, but we do get shout outs that are paid for on chain, $50. It could, it's, how many sats is that right now? It's,
100,000 sats.
yeah, 125,482 sats. So,
And I just to while we're on the topic of transaction fees, there's a important distinction here because on Lightning, so on Bitcoin on chain, your transaction fee is the amount of data you're sending. So the biggest driver of that is how many inputs you have, right? How many UTXOs you have. But so like a transaction that's for a small amount of total Bitcoin could have a higher transaction fee than one that's for a larger amount. Now on Lightning, because it's data, on Lightning, it's a percentage of the actual amount of Bitcoin you're sending. So you don't have this situation. It's like, okay, I'm paying 1% of whatever amount I'm sending or whatever the fee rate is that your routing nodes that you're going through are charging. Completely different fee model.
we're doing a lot of learning beginning of this rip. We're not even done the dashboard. You freaks are getting value this week. Clark's mempool still around 31,243 transactions. Is this? I saw Samurai Walt tweeting the Whirlpool numbers this week. Is it a new all-time high? 4,544.98.
That's what they said.
Yeah.
I didn't verify it.
So yeah, it looks like Whirlpool unspent capacity is increasing. Again, that's 4,544.98 BTC unspent value, with the price where it is right now is 166.2 million cuck bucks. So yeah, it's interesting times. We're still in this range, still ranging between mid 30s, mid 40s. Not that we care too much about price, but I do think there is one interesting stat that I saw floating around earlier this week. If the week ends and we end the week down, this will be the longest weekly streak of red candles in Bitcoin's history. I believe something like 6 weeks straight, 6 or 7 weeks straight, which is just a fun little fact, I guess. Making history here. Not the history many people want to be making,
We're
but
making history on
nonetheless.
consistent dumping.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. All right, let's jump into the list. We got a good one today. A lot of spying. I titled the
A lot of
episode.
spy.
I titled the episode on YouTube. What did I title it? The government spies and lies. So there's a lot of government spying and lying going on.
And the beauty is if you're watching it through YouTube, you're being spied on while you're watching it. So
Everybody, let's take everybody in the comments, wherever you're listening, just take a moment to say hi to our FBI agent, your FBI agent, their friends at the CIA. Just give them a nice, warm welcome in the comments section. And if you're listening via Podcasting 2.0 app or Spotify, you can't really speak to the app, or you can comment on Fountain. I bet maybe our FBI agent is listening via Fountain as well. So comment there as well. Say, hey,
we have
what's
a
up?
very dedicated FBI agent. He
Yes.
streams stats to the show to support us.
Yeah, he's very kind. Actually, he's fifth column. He's he's trying to break the alphabet soup agencies from within. So thank you to our FBI agent. Speaking of surveillance, Coinbase launches a revamped surveillance product. What are they calling it?
Coinbase Intelligence.
Yes, intelligence. It's very Orwellian. We're going to give you intelligent data that is driven by us spying on our customers. Know your transaction, KYT. They're really leaning into the vernacular of the surveillance state.
I think Chain Analysis uses the term KYT too, to be fair. But
I mean, what do you think? Like, they're just like openly leaning into KYC.
so they revamped their previous surveillance product and renamed it, and then they added another product, and then they combined them both under this new suite, and they're going to make it really easy for other businesses to package it rather than and they were already selling it to governments and intelligence agencies. So now I guess they're just going to make the process a lot more streamlined and more UX friendly is the play.
They have a great API to do all this. Know your transaction, the way they market it. As the largest regulated exchange in the U.S., it has been critical for us to work on the development of safeguards against bad actors. After years of collecting signals about how to determine if an entity or transaction is facilitating illegal activity, we developed Coinbase KYT to help businesses and institutions better mitigate risk on their own platforms through our API. Illegal activity going on. They're looking for it. Know your transaction. They're going to reduce fraud, demystify counterparty risk, and help flag AML risk with sophisticated risk scores and alerts. As we know, KYC AML is completely ineffective, so they're just doubling down on that at Coinbase and the other surveillance funds and trying to spy on you. So if you're using Coinbase, maybe if you're not even using Coinbase, their system's probably sophisticated to spy on people outside of their exchange.
100%.
Well. So,
they're using all available data, and I wouldn't be surprised if when other exchanges and services integrate them, they use that data too.
yes. Moving on for more surveillance and enforcement, government intervention. The SEC nearly doubles the size of the crypto assets and cyber unit. So they're what's the size going to here?
It's 20 to 40.
Yeah, we have 40 people now. The word on the street, or I guess the analysis of this announcement is that the SEC is really going to be focusing on like crypto as
Yeah,
opposed
it's
to
probably
Bitcoin.
more relevant to shitcoins just because Bitcoin's not a security.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that cyber unit might involve us more.
Yeah, we'll get to that as well.
Technically, this is a press release for both. So,
yes, the Division of Enforcement's crypto assets and cyber units successfully brought dozens of cases against those seeking to take advantage of investors in crypto markets. By nearly doubling the size of the key unit, the SEC will be better equipped to police wrongdoing in the crypto markets while continuing to identify disclosure and control issues with respect to cybersecurity. It seems like they're one unit.
I mean, they listed as 2 units: crypto assets and cyber unit.
Yeah, I think that's one unit.
Okay, well,
Crypto assets and cyber
whatever.
as a collective.
It's notable.
Noted. What do you think? There's a lot of people who think Gary Gensler is a closet maxi, another fifth column actor in the SEC. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I don't think that's the case, but okay.
I'm not convinced one way or the other. Pretty
If he is, then why is there no Bitcoin ETF yet?
Because he knows a Bitcoin ETF is the what we don't want. People are going to be holding their keys, so he's holding it back. So
I really think like a career statist is really concerned about holding your own keys.
Hey, I mean that would be the tactic. You would hold off the ETF as long as possible to incentivize people to take control of their own keys. You know.
Yeah.
Fifth column, baby.
He is he's definitely Bitcoin friendly. Like as friendly for Bitcoin you can be as like an SEC chair, but
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm a fan of government, SEC regulators. Just please stay out of the way. Just let things flourish.
Same.
Don't care. I mean, I imagine they'll go after a lot of these DeFi things like that. Like I'm not cheerleading for it, but I can see them doing
That's
that.
definitely what the focus is. Like ICOs, DeFi shit, token stuff, and NFTs.
But again, it goes back to the nanny state. Like we have a nanny state.
100% we do.
Like, why just let people get burned? That's how you learn lessons. I got burned. I'll never forget MintPal. You remember the MintPal rug pull?
MintPal, yeah. Everyone
burned.
got rug pulled on that.
Yeah, I was one of those people. I learned a hard lesson.
Yeah, I lost all my coin on MinPal, and then I had to start from zero again.
Yeah, it's all gone. It's all gone. Um, but yeah, the nanny state stuff. Again, we have the disinformation governance board. You have the TSA. It's just like we need to be coddled and treated like children and people that can't have agency and responsibility for ourselves. You need the government here to tell you, oh, no, you're like this is what you can do. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. Nor do I like the fact that the CDC was tracking the location of millions of Americans without a warrant. What the fuck?
This one we call, but this one we've been shouting from the rooftops for
Yeah.
fucking like 2 years now, 3 years.
But this is like,
Um, so this is we've talked about this on Rabbit Hole Recap multiple times. This is the largest and biggest example of it so far. So it's worth reiterating. Um, we have, we all have phones in our pockets. They are running a bunch of different apps and services. Um, those apps sell data to marketing companies that include your location. That location data is even more precise than cell phone triangulation data. Super accurate because you have like location enabled, you have your GPS on. And then the government goes and buys that data from marketers. So because they're buying the data from marketers, and you technically, of your own free will, like gave, even though it wasn't really the case, gave that information to the marketers, they don't need a warrant. So they're able to buy all this data. They pretend it's anonymized location data, but like they know where you live, they know where you work, they know everywhere you go.
they
It's
cross-reference everything.
impossible. Yeah, it's impossible to have anonymized location data because your location is so intimate and connected to you, especially if you have access to external data. So they use this to track millions of Americans. Now, if you want to talk about how we can stop this from happening going forward, it's not going to be regulatory. It's not going to be constitutional protections. None of that shit's going to protect us. You need to take technical you need to take technical steps to reduce your surface area here. And the simple biggest thing you can do is just, pull down on the top bar, however the iPhone works. I don't know. And then you press the location thing and disable location. Disable location, install as few apps as possible, give them as little permissions as possible. Ideally, use an open source OS rather than iPhone or Google. The two de-Googled phone OSs are Calyx and Graphene. I recommend both. Either work. Reduce the amount of apps you use. Reduce the amount of permissions of the apps you use. Use open source apps as much as possible. Ideally, don't have a phone if you can do that. But I'm trying to be actionable here. For car GPS, I really like the Garmin GPSs because they don't phone home. They're passive. They just pull they're just using the GPS satellite. They're not actually sending any information out. So for car navigation, if that's something you need, and if you absolutely need location, you can press enable, but keep it disabled for as much as possible. And this is not just about protecting yourself at scale. We make all of our we help you help reduce dragnet surveillance across the board. It helps everyone.
Yeah, who wrote that article? It was very interactive a few years ago that showed how these companies track metadata by using the example of protests in New York, and then the journalists were able to like identify particular people just by using the metadata. You remember that?
No, it wasn't. It was they found the Secret Service agent's house or whatever.
Yes.
Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
They like started at like a speech, like a presidential speech, and then they tracked it to the Secret Service agent's house because he was at the speech, he was here, he was there, and then he went and slept at home. And then there's another one that during COVID, I posted this one on Twitter this week. Um, they were bragging about how they could track COVID spread, like one of these marketing companies, and they like showed it. They circled a group of people that were on a beach in
Yeah,
Fort
we talked about
Lauderdale,
this.
and then
Yeah.
they tracked them throughout the country, and you could just see them go out the country. So imagine people doing that with protests, um, other prohibited activities. Like they can see, meetups, conferences. There's a lot of information out there, and we're just willingly giving it to everybody. This is one of the reasons why I said like 1984 is kind of not even a dystopian novel anymore, um, because we've gone so far past it, and most of it is a voluntary trade-off for convenience. We're just people are just blissfully unaware, and they just give all that information, and they pay for the privilege oftentimes.
Yeah. Sad state of the world. But first part of fixing a problem is identifying it. Matt mentioned many solutions that exist out there for mobile phones. You have operating systems like Embassy OS coming to market that are working on it from a desktop perspective and a home server perspective. I do have hope that we will get out of this mass surveillance state, though the situation is pretty dire.
I will say that the CDC was just exposed tracking tens of millions of Americans' location without a warrant, and 99% of Americans have no idea that happened and could give two shits, even if they heard the headline.
Yeah, I mean, if we actually lived in a country that respected the Constitution and its laws and the sovereignty and privacy that individuals were supposed to be granted, not granted. Are you granted privacy? Or is that's an inalienable? It should be inalienable. But it seems like it has to be granted to us now. Yeah, if we actually lived in a sane country that practiced what it preached and
rights are not granted.
Yes, rights are I believe in natural rights. There's big debates about
taken
that,
and defended.
Yes, but going back to this particular, I mean, CDC, just for the whole COVID lockdowns, it should be the whole agency should be abolished. Walensky, that whole the moral hazard in the Center for Disease Control is pretty disgusting. The fact that they were layering that moral hazard with dragnet security of people is just like another tick in the box. Is anything going to happen to them? Probably not, unless people stand up. Like with this particular story, like what's going on with Peter Thiel? So like Palantir, so like the company SafeGraph.
He loves surveillance.
Yeah, but it's like it's so weird. Like it publicly postures like this big rah-rah rights, freedom, liberty guy, and then he's like heavily backing all these dragnet surveillance companies. Like he was like one of the most popular speeches at Bitcoin 2022, and I love that speech. Like I like routed up, but like, is he just posturing publicly one way and doing things behind?
I think he thinks, like private companies should be able to surveil on us, but the government shouldn't.
I mean, but Palantir.
But he's also fine with selling.
Palantir's biggest client is the government.
I know. I'm aware.
Yeah. Very perplexing, Peter. If you want to come on the
He's very pro surveillance. That's his like core principle.
Yeah, Peter. If you want to come on the podcast and discuss, the invite is open. I know you're listening. I know you're out there listening to RHR. You come week in and week out. It's like many of our famous friends. Hillary, pumped to hear you're listening as well. Please don't.
Both Calyx and Graphene also have this feature that if you do have to have an app installed, you can set it so it doesn't have internet access without the VPN on, or you can set it so it just never has internet access. So like and you can also freeze apps. So you can make it so an app is like essentially uninstalled, but it's just one click away from using. I mean, like my favorite, my favorite surveillance app is Uber. Especially when I'm in like a foreign city or something. So if you have to have Uber, you just keep it frozen. And then when you have it enabled, when you have it on, you should do VPN only with location off. Like most people don't realize with Uber and Lyft, you actually don't even need location on. You can, good old fashioned put in the address that you're located at and the fucking car will come. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, but then you're leaking that data to Uber. And they have
but you're still, Marty, like if you have location on, you're still leaking the data.
No, I know, obviously.
But you don't have to enable location. You can just put in whatever address you want.
Yeah. Moving along, the FBI conducted potentially millions of searches of Americans' data last year, report says. So, FBI agent, dude. What the fuck's going on there, bro?
This one was... immigration related, I believe, if I recall correctly.
Shocker. What does the FBI do outside of like entrap people and spy on people?
That's what they do. That's what they do.
It's like they just entrap. Like I mean,
Occasionally, they like arrest a murderer that went across borders or whatever.
yeah, and likely if you like dig deep into the story, they probably like drove the guy to murder at the end of the day. Like this is like Chevy. We'll get to the good stuff soon. Don't worry, sir. Um, yeah, the FBI, like the Michigan governor, they completely fabricated that story. I mean, there was obviously. I mean, I think it's public knowledge now. I believe the New York Times was admitting it earlier this year. The January 6th stuff. There was some FBI agents inciting some chaos. You have that story we've talked about many times of that autistic dude in Florida that they convinced to like buy a bomb, like set it up, and then they like arrested him in a sting operation, making it seem like they were stopping a terrorist, but they had created the terrorist in the first place. I've been watching the documentary about. Have you been watching this at all on HBO about the drug runner from the 70s? And Gary something. I forget the name of the show, but it's actually
Gensler?
really not Gary Gensler, but another one. He was like a crop duster turned into like a drug smuggler in the 80s, moving a lot of cocaine and marijuana, and the CIA basically arrested him and said, or entrapped him and said, like, if you either get arrested or you help us send weapons to Nicaragua during the Iran.
Oh, Iran Contra.
Yeah, during that debacle under the Reagan administration. So the CIA like getting drug smugglers to smuggle guns into a country.
Yeah, they've been up to shit for years.
Yeah. That's actually a really interesting docu-series.
And we had the one, we have the Bitcoin example too, where like the guys who took down Ross were also.
Oh yeah, they stole the
corrupt as
Bitcoin.
fuck.
Idiots didn't
Yeah.
realize how public ledger works and got caught trying to siphon off some of the Bitcoin. They probably thought they were going to be rich. But are they still in jail? Did they even go to jail?
I mean, one of them, Karl Mark Force did. Remember him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is our three-letter agencies, and this is how they're protecting you, your rights, your
Really
family.
great start of the episode. I mean, like this is the week we were handed, so
yeah, exactly. We can
at
only
least we know about it. They were spying before these stories came out. These stories are the good news.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's public. We're identifying problems. Are we? Oh yeah, it was DEA agents, not FBI, right?
Oh, DEA, another great agency.
Yeah. Remember when the?
Do we have an ATF story too? Like,
I mean, there's a very big ATF story about 40 miles south of where I'm sitting right now, in a town called Waco, Texas.
never heard of it.
They murdered a bunch of children and people who just wanted to live
Pretty fucked
sovereignly.
up.
Yeah. So yeah, that happened as well. So yeah, ATF did that. DEA stealing Bitcoin, FBI entrapping people, CIA smuggling weapons into Nicaragua, among many other things. These are the United States intelligence apparatus and enforcement agencies that are here to protect you because you need to be protected because you're a dumb fucking cow that can't have sovereignty and responsibility over your own self. You're too dumb. Let these people entrap you and control your life. On to somewhat rosier things. I mean, I'm interested to get your take on this. Obviously, I'm sure everybody knows that I have a take on this. Recorded a podcast earlier this week on the subject. The Bitcoin Mining Council submitted a letter to the EPA. So a bunch of people. Michael Saylor, Nick Carter.
Another three-letter agency.
Yeah, the EPA. The Environmental Protection Agency. The EPA, the government, is protecting the environment, okay? The EPA is doing a lot of protection. Not
Marty, I was surprised that your signature wasn't on this.
Oh, were you? Were you?
Yeah.
I did get asked to sign it.
What's your take on this?
I mean, I get what's going on. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of screeching by some people in the government about Bitcoin mining. There's been screeching about Bitcoin mining for as long as it's been around, its energy consumption. The letter's intent was to highlight that Bitcoin mining uses a significant amount of quote unquote renewable energy, and they are making the argument that Bitcoin incentivizes more production of quote unquote renewable energy, and they say it's going to help Bitcoin mining specifically is going to help a transition, the energy transition, and the energy transition is a transition away from quote unquote fossil fuels to those quote unquote renewables. I'm saying quote unquote because these words are nothing more than marketing. And I mean, let me be clear. I have a lot of friends who signed this. I mean, I like everybody. I've met a lot of the people who signed this letter. I like them as people. I think many of them are good Bitcoiners who really want to see the network succeed and want to bring sovereignty to the world. However, as you may know, if you read the newsletter I wrote earlier this week or listened to the podcast I recorded with Safety Dr. Safety and Moose on Tuesday, I just think this strategy and this narrative is a big mistake by the North American mining industry. Number one, we discussed it at length. Safety and I did a transition. The renewable transition, the energy transition is something that we should not be supporting. It does not make any sense. It is going to make humanity materially worse off. And it's, if we're being honest, not viable without a shit ton of subsidies and hydrocarbons. So I think this catering to the frame that has been put forth by regulators and screeching politicians and screeching climate hysterics, catering to that frame and trying to work within that as a mining industry is not a good strategy. We should not cede the frame to these hysterics, these zealots, these people who don't have the truth behind them. And we should put our own frame forth, which is Bitcoin mining's good, humans are good, increased energy production's good, hydrocarbons aren't going anywhere, and Bitcoin mining is going to make us extremely energy efficient in the long run, and the fiat standard is actually what is wasting a massive amount of energy due to the misallocation of capital that it incentivizes. So I think running with the narrative that the Bitcoin Mining Council sets us up for failure in the future, or not failure, but they're going to have a lot of egg on their face when, number one, Bitcoin mining doesn't incentivize a full energy transition, because I'm seeing it up close and personal. Oil and gas companies are going to get into Bitcoin mining in a big way, and it's going to help them produce more oil and drill more wells. And so that's like, people are going to be like, hey, I thought you said we were transitioning to all renewables. What's up with all these oil and gas companies mining Bitcoin? So that's happening already. Like that finger pointing is going to come if you keep running with this narrative. And then I don't think we should be catering to these zealots. And those are my thoughts, at least off the top of my head right now. What do you think? You've been very apolitical about this. What's the word? You've been very non-committal one way. I don't want to say non-committal. You're Switzerland right now, it seems like, on this subject.
I mean, look, if the concern is that the large public warehouse miners are all going to get cucked by regulations, yeah, they're all going to. That's 100% going to happen. Whether it's through the environment stuff, whether it's through terrorist financing or whatever fucking FATFA stuff they want to hit them with, they're all going to get cucked in a million ways. And I just think this is, mostly they're just rearranging the chairs of the Titanic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is why it's important. Again, maybe this ties in with the alphabet soup agency talk we were having earlier. We need to stop falling in and trying to cater to these things that are objectively evil and bad and going to make us worse off as a society. Stop. no, Bitcoin's good. Sound money's good. More energy production's good. Like, I'm not apologizing for using hydrocarbons. We would not have the life that we have today without hydrocarbons. We're not going to have the quality of life that we have today if we try to transition away from them.
Well, one thing I thought that was interesting here was that wasn't really the crux of the argument for this specific letter. The crux of the argument was we are just data processors. We're not power generation processors. So it's like, why are you asking us when we're not actually affiliated with the power production? We're just running these machines on power.
Well, that's again, that's another narrative violation in the future.
But this was a new one, right? Like, I haven't heard that. Like, that was the main argument here.
Yeah, the electricity is being produced anyway. Like, we're just using it. Like, yeah, I mean, that argument is essentially like, why are you picking on Bitcoin miners and not washing machines? But again,
no, it's more like, why are you picking on Bitcoin miners and not like AWS?
Yeah,
or something.
But yeah, I mean, they're all interchangeable. Again, like, this is what Safe and I like. They want us using less energy. It's like any energy use is bad. So if you see that frame, that like particular energy use is bad, and you try to cater to them, you'll never be able to appease them because they think that all energy use is bad and that we need to use less and different kinds of energy. And so Bitcoin mining will just be using energy and taking away from things that they deem to be acceptable users of energy in the future. It'll be like, oh, Bitcoin's using all this renewable, it could be used for something else. We're already seeing that attack come, even though it's nonsensical. It doesn't make any sense because there's not many things that are able to actually use that energy, because these people don't care about facts or logic or anything. They care about control. I've been saying this ad nauseum. And like, again, it's the overarching theme of the letter was, yes, that we're not the power producers, but again, if you understand the economics of mining in the future, miners are going to become power producers, or power producers are going to become miners. So again, it's just setting up for some point in the future for people to point, but like, wait, you weren't the power providers, now you are. Like, you said you were going to do this and you didn't. And similarly with the energy transition, like, I mean, just these lines, you're just putting expectations out there that these zealots are going to point to in the future and say, but wait, you said you were going to do this and it didn't happen. So therefore you guys are lying. We need to attack your industry more. It's like, stop going on the defense, go on the offense. These people are insane.
What's the offense?
Energy usage is good. We need more. Hydrocarbons aren't going away. Bitcoin is good. It's going to make us more energy efficient. The fiat standard is a problem, which leads to a misallocation of capital and resources.
On like the narrative side.
Exactly. Yeah. Do not imagine, like, look how much time was wasted across the industry this week. Like, thinking about this.
Yeah, I mean, we just wasted like 8 minutes.
Is it a waste? Is it a waste here though?
I don't know. The freaks all know. Like, you know, this whole first half of the episode is like the freaks know we're being surveilled already. It's bad and what they should do. Most of them probably know how fees work. Most of them know ESG is a scam and an attack on Bitcoin. Most of them know that large miners are going to get cucked. Like, we just rehashed a bunch of shit.
Hey, we have new freaks coming every week, Matthew.
I'm glad. I hope the 7 of you that haven't heard those things.
We're having insane growth on the download side. Thank you guys. Reminder: spread the word about the show. We're trying to educate people about this. We will repeat this stuff in the future because there will be more new freaks coming. So if you're getting bored of it, sorry, but it's fun to rehash all this stuff, and you got to stay up to date with it. And it's fun at some point in the future when the zealots do say, but wait, you said this. You said you were going to do this, but this happened. We're going to be able to look back and go, oh, rabbit hole recap, rip 198. We made everybody aware of this. We have the tapes. You can roll the tapes. Who cares about RH Pill? It is all about RHR Pill. Go RHR Pill. The way you can help do that is hit subscribe wherever you're listening. Rate, review. That helps. It honestly does. I do want to get this information out to more people that think it's important. We are in a narrative battle. I will be upfront. I think Bitcoin's good. I am going to try to propagandize to make Bitcoin happen. I'm going to be open about that. We need to get to more
Yeah,
people.
100%. Bitcoin's fuck you money.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, it's fuck me money. So you actually reminded me, uh, just in our usual tactic of talking business on the air, we do have a plan in place to
Oh, yes.
roll Rabbit Hole Recap into its own podcast feed. Um, it is not ready yet, but I think like it seems like right now it's like in 2 weeks the only way to listen on podcasts will be on the new feed. So we'll remind you next week, but
Yeah.
you're gonna want to search Rabbit Hole Recap in your podcast app and press subscribe over there.
Yeah, we're doing some. I want to say how we're getting more organized here.
Housekeeping.
Yeah, some housekeeping. Separate streams. All that stuff. We should have done it from the start, but we were young, dumb, and like looking at the way Adam Carey, John Dvorak, what they do, like what Adam does, like No Agenda, MoFax, Podcasting 2.0. It just makes sense to do all that separate streams, and it makes stuff easier for like the Podcasting 2.0 splits and all that, which become a nightmare intermingling the interviews and the RHR.
But anyway, Carr's been working on that. We're very close. Next week will probably be the last one on the TFTC feed, and we'll remind you. And then after that, they'll be on the RHR feed.
Yeah, and I'll be sure to continually remind people after the fact on TFTC feed. So when we do launch, should we go tell them to subscribe now? There is, yeah. Carr's saying, yeah.
I don't think it's up yet. I think it's only on Spotify, Carr.
It's only on Spotify now.
Yeah, so don't subscribe. Stop using Spotify, freaks.
I still use Spotify.
I mean, if you want to use Spotify, use Spotify. I don't really give a shit.
I use
But
Spotify.
it's only available on Spotify right now. Well, it was a little premature. We'll remind you next week. We need to syndicate the RSS feed out, get Podcasting 2.0 set up and everything.
Yeah, and that was Business on Air.
That was a new thing, though. So at least it's our first non-rehash of the of the conversation.
Yes, this is pretty new. I've never seen this type of data done. How women across the world view Bitcoin.
Well, I thought this was interesting because I think most people would assume like, oh, like Spiral's biased. So Spiral's running this right out of the nonprofit, open source, Bitcoin focused. Maybe I don't know if it's nonprofit, but it's definitely not tax nonprofit. Division of Square, well, Block, formerly Square. I think most people would think like this was, maybe like a woke SJW type of study, but really the findings of the study was like women don't really view Bitcoin any differently than men.
Yeah, Bitcoin doesn't care.
Attitudes toward Bitcoin are largely the same across genders. Now, it was a study of 1,000 women who had 1,000 people, both men and women, that have heard of Bitcoin but have never used Bitcoin. And they have a bunch of results and graphs and whatnot. But the big takeaway is that it's basically the same.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of apprehension. I'm on page finding number 3. Women are very concerned with trust and safety and don't know if Bitcoin is safe. Omara from Argentina is turning her Argentine pesos into dollars and then turning it into cash. I would argue that's not very safe. Women don't find Bitcoin easy to learn about from the people and formats they follow. If there's any women listening to this show that think that, please let us know. We would like to change that. Yeah. So there's it does highlight, we have a lot of work to do in terms of like educating, or maybe it's not us doing the work or people coming to understand it. It is a foreign idea from us, an alien idea is probably the best way to describe it. Oh man, just in. Moving on now, I just got some breaking news sent via text message.
What?
AG Merrick Garland announces the U.S. Department of Justice is creating an Office of Environmental Justice. So another
The OIJ.
the OEJ. Yes, the OEJ. So another
Oh
three
yeah,
letter
environmental with an I. That's pretty bad. OEJ.
OEJ. So another three-letter agency here.
Horrible three letters. That's not a good one. Is
OEJ.
that
OEJ. Ouija. Ouija. OEJ. 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 You say fast. Ouija. 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 They're summoning demons to control your life. Okay. Um, we spun up a ministry of truth last week. Now we get an Office of Environmental Justice this week. Just more bureaucratic bullshit to fuck up your life. We got to change the tenor of this. We're just getting. So that's new. This is some new information.
this is the
Breaking news on the rip.
this is the three-letter agency that's gonna put Marty in fucking gulag.
That's literally. So this is the text I got. They are coming for you. Am I
Well,
invited?
it's important to laugh.
Yeah, you have to laugh. You have to laugh. Speaking of laughing, let's get to the shout outs. We have two this week, unless I refresh and we get another, which didn't happen. So this is interesting. Greetings from Finland. Shout out to our Finnish freaks. I don't know if you're aware, but Finland possesses over 1,000 Bitcoin seized from a drug bust. The government is planning on donating at least some of it to Ukraine. This is just so short-sighted. Setting aside the method of acquisition, Finland possesses its own Bitcoin treasury. Other than the cost of custody, the Finnish government could just hold it. And when it comes to donating to Ukraine, Finland has its own problems. Finland is next up if Russia decides that it cannot bear a further NATO incursion on its borders. We are prepared and will give them a bad time. Look up Simo. I do not understand how to pronunciate Finnish stuff. Haya. Haya. H-A-H-A, and the A's have like two dots over them. H-A-Y-H-A. And the A's have two dots over them. I don't know how to pronounce that. Simo Haya. But maybe it would help to hold on to that Bitcoin too. I love the show. Keep up the good work. Shout out to our Finnish freak. I agree. I don't think.
I'm torn on this one.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'd agree. If the Finnish government were smart, it would hold the Bitcoin and it wouldn't donating them to like a war
No,
effort.
I'm torn on it. Well, first of
On
all,
how to pronounce Haya?
no, but the main reason I'm torn on it is because it seized Bitcoin.
Uh,
Now, I don't think governments. I definitely don't like this idea of like. Well, we'll focus on our government. I don't like the idea of the U.S. government having a policy where they hold seized Bitcoin. I want them to fucking fire sell it for shitcoins or burn it. Right? Like those are like the two options. I don't want this like there's like this perverted incentive there where it's like, okay, all of a sudden, we're seizing Bitcoin and we're getting all these gains on our seized Bitcoin, right? Our purchasing power is protected. Um, our Bitcoin treasury is doing great. And then they're just like passing new laws and using the existing vague laws to go after Bitcoiners and seize more Bitcoin, right? Like that's a very perverse incentive. We saw that happening with independent police forces in terms of where they were like seizing cars and cash and guns and all these different assets, and they were allowed to keep them. And so basically, like these independent local police forces had like a massive revenue stream. Their main revenue stream was taking people's shit.
and you
Like
had,
that's
if you wanted to get your shit back, you had to sue them and prove in the court of law
yeah.
that it was rightfully yours. And so they usually took your money, which you would then, you would
Not have
probably
money to fucking sue
fucking
them
pay for
with.
your lawyer. It's so fucking ass backwards.
Yeah. So that's what I'm really torn about. Like I don't like that.
Yeah, I mean, and this bring it back to another, like I guess it's not seizure, but they found the Bitfinex Bitcoin. Is the U.S. government going to give them back? Probably not.
That's what I'm saying. Like, should they hold that? I think they should burn it. Just fucking burn the whole fucking thing.
I mean, obviously we'd like that selfishly.
I try and stay out of, like political lobbying or whatever, but I feel like one of the single biggest wins that we could get would be if we convinced if we got like a law put in place that the US government had to burn any Bitcoin they seized.
Well, when it comes to the Bitcoin or the Bitfinex Bitcoin, like they should give it back to Bitfinex. I mean, it was stolen from them. They found it, and you should get your stolen goods back, right? That makes sense. In terms of seizing it from like the Silk Road, even though I think the Silk Road should be completely legal and people should be able to do whatever they want.
Yeah, they should give it back to Bitfinex. They're not going to.
No.
But they should.
Yeah.
Because Bitfinex in that situation wasn't the alleged criminal, right? In the Silk Road, there's alleged criminal. But I think I would love, like, I don't know if that'd be so hard of a pull to convince, government status types that like we should just burn all Bitcoin. Like, why don't we tell them it's bad for the environment and, like they shouldn't be supporting Bitcoin as an ecosystem and they should just, it's like inherently illegal or whatever. Like use all the things they use against us and be like, burn everything you seize and then just get that on the books. And then from this point on, they won't really have a strong incentive to seize Bitcoin. And if they do, existing Bitcoin holders get the benefit of more scarcity, so increasing purchasing power.
Yeah. I mean, we'd love that. But then does the government want that today? Do they want Bitcoiners?
I don't know. I think that if you're going to lobby the government, why don't you lobby them to do that?
Burn it. Burn it. How do you burn it?
You just send it to
an unspendable address.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One Bitcoin eater or whatever. I mean, you can do it to a bunch.
People got mad at Steve Barber for burning coins last year. Remember that? He did like a Satoshi sacrifice to pay homage to Satoshi. And people got really mad at him.
I don't know. Why would you get mad at him? Like anyone can burn coins whenever they want to burn them.
Yeah. I feel like it was like AJ Towns.
I mean, that's what I did. I burned all my Bitcoin and then I had to start fresh again.
Yeah. What is
after
Bitcoin?
I lost it all on MinPal.
Yeah, I like that. That's an interesting strategy. I think Bitfinex should get their Bitcoin back. Probably not. That's a shame.
But was like Bitfinex, so Bitfinex is a little bit confusing, right? Because Bitfinex gave everyone a haircut at their exchange. So
it wasn't a forced haircut, though.
Yeah, it was.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was. You receive. So
I don't think you had the ability to hold that token if you wanted to.
Okay, but if you only held Ethereum on the exchange, Bitcoin was stolen. If you only held Ethereum on the exchange, you had the same socialized losses. So they like cut your balance and then they gave you their bullshit token or whatever. And they were like, you have the ability to hold this.
I didn't realize they cut balances.
Yeah. And they replaced it with the token. And then you could hold the token that would be worth $1 when everyone was whole. But people didn't think that would happen. So they were selling low. And like the theory, at least, is that Bitfinex was buying them back low so that their obligations were lower.
Yeah, there's going to be a movie made about the Bitfinex hack.
So it's not that clear.
It's going to focus on those. Bitcoin. That's the thing that's going to suck about the Bitfinex
Burning
movie.
It would be easier.
Yeah, it would be much easier. But the thing that's going to suck about the Bitfinex movie is that it's going to focus on those two assholes from Brooklyn who probably weren't even the actual thieves and were the patsies. It's not going to focus on...
You mean the richest rapper of all time? Of course it's going to focus on her, as it should.
No, it should really focus on like the discussion we're having, like the intricacies of what they did in the aftermath.
Should be richest rapper of all time. Straight up, that should be the name of the movie.
Netflix, HBO, Paramount, whoever, we're giving out free alpha here. The richest rapper ever. Software updates. My Citadel version 1.0 has been released. This is a desktop client.
We only had one shout out?
Oh, no, we had two. Good call.
Yeah, I thought you said two.
We went on a tangent with with the Finnish. The Finnish freak sent us down the road. Shout out to you, Finnish freak. Second and last shout out of the week. What's up, dog? Vake. Nothing much,
Thanks,
bruh.
Ray. Appreciate the
We
support.
chilling here. We chilling here. Vic. But like now, this
Ooh,
is why I
that's a
love the
good
shout
name.
outs.
Wrapped Bitcoin, RAPPED.
I
So
like
good.
that. This is the thing about this. Like, are people impersonating Vic? Is this actually Vic? Do we ever
No,
get
that's
comp?
actually vague. That's definitely vague.
Okay. Thanks, Vic. Love you, brother.
Vague, if that wasn't you, just do a shout out next week to let us know.
Also, Vic, where the hell were you at the live rabbit hole recap? You're supposed to come up on stage, and we were supposed to like lambast you in front of
Yeah,
the
you're supposed to
audience.
join us for the live one.
Cop out. Shame on you, Vic. My Citadel version 1.0 has been released.
Vague is in the comments saying it's me, but I don't know how we can verify that that's actually vague.
uh, this is an interesting project.
Vague got bend.
Vic up end.
He said we didn't call him up. We didn't call him up. He's got a point. We probably should have. Well, what are you going to do next year?
Vic, we told you to meet us at the stage the week before we went live.
Vague, join us on the live RHR at BitBlock Boom.
Ooh, yes. You're in Austin, Texas. Don't even have to leave. That's like,
come join us for the.
ooh.
And if we shout you out to come join us and you're not in the audience, that's on you.
It is on you.
Good timing.
Don't even have to leave.
So
house
this
for
My
BitBlock
Citadel
Boom.
thing's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Software release.
Yeah, explain more. I've seen like people tweeting about it and seen screenshots, but now I'm reading the release notes. Seems really cool. Like multi-sig, lightning, inheritance things.
Well, first of all, it says it's still in beta, so don't use it with too much money. I mean, I tried it out with all my Bitcoin and lost it all. So that one I'm fucking around about. I haven't tried it yet. But the cool feature that it has apparently is that you can make a multi-sig, like you can make a 3 of 5 multi-sig that turns into a like 1 of 5 multi-sig after a certain amount of time goes by or blocks go by.
This is
So you can make it require less signatures. So in an inheritance situation, or if you lose a key, you have a safeguard. So you can imagine like an inheritance situation. You give like your kid or something like that like one key, and you give a lawyer a second key or your aunt a second key, and then but they need 3 keys to spend it while you're living. But if you die and then 3 years go by or whatever, then they only need 2 keys to spend from it, and then they can spend it.
This is something I love to see. One feature that Bitcoin has that I think is severely underutilized at the moment is time locks. Just time locking Bitcoin.
But this isn't a time lock.
Why? If you
So if you do a traditional time lock, it's
not a time lock?
No one can spend it.
Oh,
Right? Like if I did a 4,000 block time lock, then it doesn't matter how many signatures you have. You just can't spend it for 4,000
that's a good point. So what
blocks.
is this? Well, this feature, all right. So time lock, not the specific time lock feature, but using like
I have no idea what they're doing under the hood to make it happen.
yeah,
I
using
did
like
not look into it. It's been a busy week. This came out relatively recently. What was it, like 2 days ago or something?
it's like an on-chain dead man switch, right? Essentially,
Yeah,
that's a
That's
good way
what
to
it is.
describe it. Yeah, it's pretty.
I
cool.
think like Taproot is involved. It's a Taproot native wallet. And these are the guys that are doing RGB. So this is going to be like this is the base for their RGB wallet, which is their tokens on Lightning. But this is the on-chain component of it. So that doesn't have any of the Lightning stuff in it yet, is my understanding.
Yeah, you check it out. My
Supports
Citadel,
hardware wallets, all the good shit, open source.
air gap, all that good.
So Kita's asking, how does it know when someone dies? It doesn't. It's just a straight up the amount of time since the last transaction is what it is. So if you're still alive, you got to make transactions so it doesn't decay.
Can you just sign? Would that be possible?
What?
What if you just signed?
No, you got to broadcast the transaction.
Yeah.
The transaction has to be in the blockchain.
It wouldn't be any different, like from a privacy. Would it? If you just signed with the private key, like I'm thinking if it was a UX. Like what if you could sign? It would extend.
Well, then you need like a centralized server or something. The whole point is that everything's in chain.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But now Zorn is telling me that I'm mistaken. I believe Zorn is telling me that I'm mistaken, and that it has nothing to do when the last transaction happened, and it just has to do with when you created the wallet and the amount of time that happens after you create the wallet, which might also be the case. Like I said, I have no idea. I have not looked into it.
Go look into it yourself, freaks. We're gonna have the link in the show notes. Go
Yeah, then
experiment with it. Don't
give
trust
us a
us.
shout out about how it works.
Go verify. CTool version 1.0.4 has been released. Our friend Bitcoin Q&A has a nice little thread on this. The Seedzor is the cool feature where you can split up your seed backup into two or multiple BIP39 compatible seed. So I guess you can. Is it similar like Shamir sharding or
No.
no? All right.
XOR is what Cold Card supports already. And it has there's some slight differences with Shamir's. First of all, you can do everything by hand and verify everything by hand. It's like a very simple process in terms of intuitively. Um, and with XOR, you need both. You need all of the pieces.
Okay.
But it's nice because you can keep. So the simplest is just two, right? And you can keep those two seeds in different places, and it's almost like a poor man's multi-sig. You need both of them to restore the funds.
Yes.
But good to see the improvements here. This is also Super Fat Arrows involved in this project too.
Super fat arrow. What a nim.
Such a good name.
We are going to talk about the next software update. Then we're going to blow through the rest because I want to talk about a lot of the topics we have on the back end of the show, and we have a tight 40 minutes here. Tor version 0.4.77 has been released. This is the first stable Tor release with support for congestion control, which eliminates the speed limit of current Tor, reduces latency by minimizing relay queue lengths, significant performance improvement, and increased utilization of network capacity. This seems like a pretty big Tor update. Am I mistaken?
It seems pretty big. Yeah, I mean, it's just supposed to make everything more performant. Yeah, this is also very recent. I think this dropped yesterday.
Yeah. Shout out to No Bullshit Bitcoin. That's where I saw this first in their Telegram channel. And if they're sharing,
they're on Telegram, Twitter, RSS feed. Great feed.
Great feed. MK4 shipping and new firmware is available. MK4 is going out, freaks. I've got my hands on one. I got to plug it in. Start messing with it. Plug it in. Not to the internet, but just to some power source, potentially battery.
Yeah, I have some MK4s here too. I need to use and test, and
yes,
haven't yet.
Lightning Multiplexer has been released by BottlePay.
But he released just so what? There's MK4 is shipping now. Best hardware wallet in the business.
And the new firmware is out.
He's insisting on calling them signing devices now. I don't know if I agree with that, but whatever.
I might agree with that. I think I agree with that.
What about Shishi's idea of a Bitcoin computer?
Bitcoin computer. No, I don't like that.
I don't know if I like either of them. I don't think I like hardware wallet either, but I don't know if signing device is necessarily the.
Why not? What's wrong with sign? That's what it is. You sign. Private key is the broadcast transaction.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. I don't know if the goal is to make to have terminology that's like accessible and easy for people to understand and explain to people.
Yeah. Well,
it doesn't seem like that's the one.
Well, I don't think that's the intention. I think it's to be more accurate.
No, that's the intention. And then MK4, MK3's firmware has been released. There's a couple other things I don't know, but they've been they've been running through. MVK got mad at me last week because we didn't mention a bunch of shit. So I tried my best, MVK. There you go.
Rodolfo, we're sorry. We're
Go to
sorry.
coldcard.com or coinkite.com and click their blog and see what they've been talking about.
You said blog, really weird. Click their blog.
Blog.
Introducing multiplexer, incoming payment failover
This
for
is
Lightning.
pretty cool.
Yost Jaeger, who's been on the podcast. Jaeger, tomato. Very critical Lightning dev. Somebody's been working on it for some time. Famously, he left Lightning Labs to focus on Lightning Network security, and highlighting where there are inefficiencies, and I imagine this failover for Lightning and multiplexer is something that he's happy to bring to market because it helps with the UX side of things.
So first of all, this is open source. The cool part to me of this is that you're separating the invoice database stuff from the node. So we talked a lot about, like, in the past, we've talked a lot about how if you have an LND node, like, it's really hard to switch over to Core Lightning or one of the other implementations. I mean, that sucks for individual users, but it's even more extreme for businesses. So in this case, my basic understanding with the multiplexer is that it doesn't really matter what the nodes you have in front of it are. The multiplexer is the one handling all the invoice database stuff. So you can like seamlessly switch between implementations, or you can have you could be running multiple different implementation nodes and they're all connected to the multiplexer in the back end. Now, I might be completely wrong about that, but that seems like the cool part here. And if that's not the case, my understanding at the very least is that this is like the setup process for that to be the case.
Progress. Moving forward.
It's like detaching the node part from the actual database part.
Yeah, which is a pretty big step. Shout out to Yoast.
Oh, yeah. See, in the future, support for node implementations other than LND may added using a mix of thanks, Car. Car scrolled away from me, but using a mix of scroll up a little bit, Car. I mean, whatever. You can use a mix in the future. You're going to be able to use a mix of implementations. Right now, you can't, but that's the cool part to me.
Yeah, using a mix of implementations further increases the resiliency of the system.
Correct.
This is open source. Let's go check this out. Is Yoast working at BottlePay now?
Yeah, BottlePay's been funding him for a while now. I think their lead engineer.
Sweet. Shout out to Yoast and BottlePay for bringing that to market. Again, progress, slowly but surely. Things aren't perfect. Bitcoin isn't perfect. Everybody should understand this. We're working to make it better. There are things that you need to be aware of. As much as people will say Bitcoin is perfect, it does have a perfect monetary system, a perfect monetary policy. But the actual implementation of that depends on code. That isn't always perfect. We're building in layers here. And with Lightning too, it's not perfect. We're still making that better as well. We need better privacy on both layers. Progress. Taproot helps us. This stuff could get us to a place where privacy is better on Lightning as well. And then,
do you see these comments? Is Bitcoin nuking?
Where are we? 35,930? No, not really. I think it's higher than when
Come on, Yada. $35,000 is not nuking.
Yeah, no.
Stay humble and stack sats.
I think we're above where we were when we started the episode. So, not on air.
Well, my block clock still says 54,000.
Interesting. I'm going to pull this thread up because this is interested to get your thoughts on this. I don't know if you saw this thread from Butt Dickerson.
Buck Dickerson.
Buck Dickerson. Carr, I'm going to put this in our
I
Telegram
think
chat.
this is definitely someone we know who just created a new Twitter account.
It is someone we know. I'm not sure if he's
Do you know who it is?
Yeah. And he's a very solid Bitcoiner. So I don't know if you've seen this thread, but it's an interesting take on what the Lightning Network is. So I'll read the thread aloud for anybody at home that's listening, can't see it on the screen. First, Lightning isn't a scaling layer. It is Bitcoin. It is how Bitcoin works natively. Moreover, it solves Vitalik Buterin's idiotic blockchain trilemma. It uses Bitcoin security, it scales Bitcoin natively, and keeps Bitcoin decentralized. Second, Taro makes native tokens feasible without the pitfalls of shitcoining by using the native network effect of the Lightning Network. Stop saying that Lightning is a second layer solution. Stop saying that Lightning scales Bitcoin. Bitcoin is Lightning and Lightning is layer 1. It's effectively just a wallet implementation that keeps channels between parties open. I thought that was an interesting framing of the Lightning Network and explanation of it. Interested to get your thoughts on that.
I mean, it's I don't disagree.
Because it is, again, it's like just like a multi-sig. And then wallet implementations take that multi-sig transaction and just do things with it.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to call it a layer 1, we can call it a layer 1. I just then what is on chain? You're just like at the end of the day, like what are these terminologies for? It's just for discourse between humans.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting thread.
Like we're teaching someone how to make a Lightning payment or whatever, and then we're like, just be mindful that this is a layer 1 payment and not a layer 2 payment, but it's completely different than your normal on-chain payment.
Yeah, but that can be abstracted away, like Moon's doing.
But it's definitely completely different than something like Liquid. I would say like Liquid is more of a pure layer 2.
Agreed.
My guess is who's ever behind that account is someone at Lightning Labs who put a lot of wrong.
Oh,
I was gonna say I'm gonna continue my statement. Who had a lot of good points and then mixed in a Taro justification in the middle.
It's not anybody from Lightning Labs. I think you'll be surprised with who it is. I'll tell you after. Speaking of Lightning,
like what was the Taro? What was the Taro sentence?
Second, Taro makes native tokens feasible without the pitfalls of shitcoining by using the native network effect of the Lightning Network. And when I tell you who it is, you'll get why that was said. But it wasn't anybody from Lightning Labs.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's probably the only statement I would argue against. Because it's literally like, how can you avoid the perils of shitcoining when it's enabling shitcoins on Lightning?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'm not even going to get down that road. I don't feel like doing it right now. I was going to say.
I just feel like Bitcoiners have so many pointless things to argue about. Like, do we really have to argue about layer 1 versus layer 2? I don't really care.
I don't think he's really arguing. I think he's just trying to illuminate a way to
narrative
do it.
Battle.
That's not even narrative. I think it's just.
I would agree. I would definitely agree that it's definitely more, it's at the end of the day, they're batch Bitcoin transactions, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if, custodial Lightning that's layer 2.
Yeah, I mean,
I wonder his opinion on that.
And Cash App's layer 2, Coinbase layer 2,
Liquid's layer 2.
Yeah. I mean that's pretty commonly accepted. I think there's agreement around like exchanges and custodians being layer 2 solutions. Their internal databases are a layer on top of Bitcoin, I guess. It's not directly connected to the chain, but now we're just getting into semantics. There's a new Lightning only VPN, lnvpn.net. It's pretty cool. Uses a WireGuard VPN client. I don't think I've ever heard of WireGuard.
So WireGuard's a protocol. It's a new VPN protocol that's more performant. Like all the good hosted VPN providers are using WireGuard. Like Movad supports WireGuard as a protocol. Um, so they have their own servers, and they're using WireGuard as the protocol. So in practice, it's not really any different than Movad. The main two differences are you're trusting a different individual or group of individuals. In this case, we have no idea who's running this. And you can pay hourly, and it's Lightning native, which is cool. Movad, you have to use vpn.sovereign.engineering if you want to pay Lightning. Movad doesn't accept Lightning payments directly. And it's just kind of a cool idea that you can do like a throwaway 1 hour VPN with Lightning payment for like what? It's like 10
10
cents or something
cents.
for 1 hour.
Yeah, you pay like a few hundred sats.
But I just want to reiterate one more time that with a hosted VPN provider, the main trade off you're making is you're putting a lot of trust in that VPN provider. And there's no way for us to prove that someone isn't keeping logs. So there's no way to prove you're not keeping logs. So it always comes down to a reputation game. And these people have zero reputation. With all that said, I've talked about Movad many times. I've talked about IVPN many times. They both could be honeypots. And we won't know until after we get completely fucked. But that's just the trade-off you make when you use a VPN.
Yeah, who is running this? Who are they? Do you know?
They're anons.
So,
I have no idea. They don't even list a NIM, I don't believe.
Berlin Bitcoiner. Car saying they follow Warren Tagami from Blockstream, Light Rider from Fulmo. Yeah, he's working on. So Light Rider, I guess he's a NIM.
It's Light Rider on Twitter. Got it?
Light Rider 5. The number 5. Light, Light, Rider, RIDER 5 is working on it. I think the Twitter account follows 3 people: Warren Tagami, Light Rider, and WireGuard. And that's how you do research on the go, folks. If you want to buy a month subscription, I was doing math, put on my calculator. It's pretty cheap, 8,343 sats for a month-long VPN there. But be aware, it could be our FBI agent. Light Rider could be working for the FBI behind the scenes and could be our agent. So
you could have killed Light Riders 1 through 4 and then...
This is a really cool study, the Voltage Podcast Index study, diving deep into the numbers. There's a lot of people listening to podcasts using Podcasting 2.0 enabled apps. Shout out to those of you who are currently doing that as I speak.
It's pretty cool that there's over 6,400 Podcasting 2.0 value for value podcasts.
That's a lot. That's a significant amount of podcast. 1 million sats a month. Or is that a day? Excuse me.
1 million stats per day are being streamed, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
The reason they know these stats, by the way, is because as part of the Podcasting 2.0 spec, Podcast Index, as the index of all the podcasts, has a sustainable business model of taking 1% of the stream. So when you stream sats to this show right now, a portion goes to DJ Seeds, a portion goes to Carr, a portion goes to me, a portion goes to Marty, and a portion, 1%, goes to Podcast Index. So if you control the Podcast Index node, which Adam Curry does, which is being run on Voltage, then you can extrapolate from there and know how many sats are being streamed per day. And that's how they know this.
Yes. I love Podcasting 2.0. Shout out to Adam Carey, the Podfather, putting the team on his back, fighting, and many others who are building it now. But Adam obviously championing it, and it's his idea, and he's running with it and trying to preserve pure content on the web and content monetization on the web in the digital age via Bitcoin. And shout out to all you freaks, again, contributing streaming sats right now. Thank you for the value. We hope you're getting value out of this. Smash that like and subscribe button. Just going to throw that in there randomly. This is cool. Are we officially changing the pronunciation to Ibex?
Yeah.
Ibex Mercado is running the Lightning implementation
As
for
of right now.
Mexican Bitcoin exchange Toros. So Ibex is partner.
First Mexican Bitcoin exchange to add Lightning support for both withdrawals and deposits.
We get to celebrate some very positive news out of Mexico on Cinco de Mayo. Let's go. Shout out to Toros in Ibex Mercado. We believe Lightning is going to take over the world, so it's good to see this stuff happening. Lightning. Actually, I'm not going to speak for you, Matt. I think Lightning is very important.
It's just really cool to see this Mexican Bitcoin exchange add another layer 1 payment option. Just really fantastic.
Here's a cool quote from the article. 2021 is the year that Lightning burst into the Bitcoin ecosystem. 2022 will be remembered as the year Bitcoin truly became transactional and started transforming people's financial lives, said Mario Iglo. Oh, God. Igles. Car, how do you pronounce that?
He's halfway through the last name and he just drops an "oh God" in there.
I don't see that.
It's under the ad for shoes. If you're getting a shoe ad, I'm probably getting.
It's under
It's
the
towards.
shoe ad.
It's the third paragraph from the bottom.
My understanding is everyone gets different ads.
Yeah. No, Mario Aguiluz. Yeah, I agree. Like, I mean, we were just showing Lightning Network VPN. I can't pronounce Finnish or Mexican last names. We figured that out this episode. Laugh at me all you want, freaks. Okay, I'm sorry. VPN, spending with Lightning, Beef Initiative, ranchers selling their beef, spending with Bitcoin over Lightning. Getting easier. I had a valet guy and at one of the restaurants down here. I always ask now, I'm like, can I tip you in Bitcoin? I do it before I go into the restaurant. And today, finally got the first yes, like over Cash App. Yeah, I take Cash App Bitcoin. I was like, sweet, I'll be doing that. Did that. It's happening.
Did you tell him not your keys, not your coins?
I didn't have the key, not your coin lecture on the way out. My parents were in town. We're just didn't have time. Shout out to my dad. Sent pictures to the family group text. He went and shake his local rancher's hand in the Pennsylvania area. He got some
nice
beef, shilling the Beef Initiative to him. Speaking of the Beef Initiative, I'm going to have Dr. Mary Kerr on tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. She's been working with the Beef Initiative. There's beef broth, bone broth. There we go. Bone broth challenge, May 13th and 14th. Fast, 2-day fast. You can only drink bone broth. I'm going to participate in it. That starts next Friday. Saturday, bone broth. I'm going to do it on the weekend. God damn it. But yeah, go to beefinitiative.com to learn more about that. Currency Last Resort by our good friend Alex Gladstein has hit Bitcoin Magazine .com. I have not read it yet, but it's about how Bitcoin is helping.
And specifically, it's about
Ukraine, Russia.
Bitcoin developer Gleb.
Yeah, Gleb.
Former New York Bitcoiner who has been working on the ground in his home of Ukraine.
That's what I was going to say during
humanitarian work.
That was another thing I was going to say during the Finnish thing. If the government is going to donate to Ukraine, donate to somebody like Gleb. It's probably actually getting it to people on the ground.
Yeah, do humanitarian aid, not military aid.
Yeah. Shout out to Gleb. I mean, Gleb...
But they really should burn the Bitcoin, let's be honest.
Gleb is...
Gleb's a real one. He's a fucking
Real.
legend.
I mean, he's a real one. He's like one of the smartest young minds in Bitcoin. I hope he stays safe over there, Gleb. If you're listening, if you can hear this, I doubt you are. You're probably busier with other things, but
Yeah, I hope you're not listening to this.
yeah, I hope you're staying safe. And I mean, and a very important young mind doing incredible work on the P2P side, the networking side, Lightning security. Him and Antoine Riard run a research company together where they're really trying to figure out how to make Bitcoin as resilient and robust as possible. And he's doing good things on the humanitarian side of Ukraine right now. Shout out to Gleb, a fucking real one. This is pretty big this week. PayPal is beginning to use to censor more indie content producers, Mint Press, and what was the other one?
I don't know how anyone's surprised by this shit anymore.
Consortium News. Yeah, PayPal is beginning to deplatform.
This is like the tail of this whole episode is just like centralized third parties. In this case, these large corporations are consistently being used as a proxy of the U.S. government to exact whatever they need to do without having to deal with constitutional protections. So in this case, we have free speech in this country. Okay, well, pressure financial companies like PayPal to make sure that they can't monetize easily. Now, they could still speak if they want to, but we'll also pressure the social media companies to make sure that they censor them there too. But those are private companies. You have no constitutional protections. Oh, we want to spy on you? Okay, we'll buy it from independent corporations and we'll use independent corporate software to keep databases of it and do the tooling or whatnot. So there's this massive integration that has happened among the world's largest companies that are based in the United States and our government, and they're used to both monetize us because we have extremely valuable data that corporations can profit off of, and then also to control us on the government level because they don't have any kind of regulatory protection or constitutional protection on that shit.
Yeah, it's all fucked. It's all fucked. You got to build your way up. There is hope. I mean, dude, what we're building with the Ghost BTC Pay server implementation. I mean, we're trying to prove the way. Like you can
and streaming stats, podcasting 2.0.
Yeah,
so just like accepting Bitcoin payments. Period.
Yeah,
without a trusted third party.
Yeah, I mean, DJ's been working hard behind the scenes building this Ghost BTC Pay server integration, and that is a solution. Like Ghost is open source. You can self-host. We don't do it yet, but we plan on doing it, self-hosting the Ghost site. So we control that. We control a server that holds that content.
Yeah.
And then we inject it with BTC Pay server that runs on a node that we control. And there's literally like the only rough.
Well, did you see the last story I put on the list?
The biggest point of failure is the DNS provider.
No, there's what a federal judge ordered
all internet
96
payment providers.
Internet service providers, every single internet provider in the United States, and every single payment provider, payment app, bank, to block 3 streaming sites
by any technological means available.
Yeah.
And this is
so
just
in this case, once again, they're pressuring the companies that provide us internet, provide us financial services, and they're using that leverage to stop these streaming services. Now, are these streaming services breaking laws? Yes. Am I making any kind of claims on whether or not those laws are just or not? No. But my point is, this kind of power will be abused, and we're going to start. I think if you're working in the Bitcoin industry, if you're working in Bitcoin, if you're working on open source projects, if you're working in companies, if you're working in the greater cryptocurrency space and the crypto space, like this should be fucking scaring the shit out of you. Like this is the type of shit that we're going to start to see more and more of.
Yeah, it's coming, freaks. It's coming. So be aware. Be aware.
It's thundering outside right now. My dog is scared shitless.
Oh, sorry. We got to wrap it up here soon. We got about 10 minutes left. I put it on the back end of the list. Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve hiked rates by 50 bips earlier this week. That was less than the 75 bips that a lot of people in the market thought it was going to be, or that the Fed said they were going to do at one point in the past. So they're not raising rates as high.
So
It's
the
the
market's
highest,
pumped.
highest rate hike in quite some time. But more importantly, like we knew that was going to happen. Negative GDP, didn't know it was going to happen. Knew it was a likely outcome due to negative GDP print, inflation still going up, but you have these pressures from the political class during an election year, a midterm election year. The economy is the most important topic. If you want to get reelected, you want a good economy. GDP's down.
But then the market's dumped today.
Yeah,
Like really hard. Like what
everything's-
the S&P, like for them, it's like I didn't watch CNBC today, but like if the S&P goes down 3%, 4%, like fucking it's straight chaos mode in CNBC.
Yeah, there's. I mean, it's chaotic. Right? You're having the sovereign default bubble, sovereign debt bubble, well, a debt bubble pop. The markets are all out of whack. They've been manipulated ad nauseum for decades, and now you're going to have this volatility in these chaotic days that really can't be explained by anything. But another thing that came out this week, it was made apparent that I don't know if it was the comments from Jerome Powell, but last fall when he was up for reappointment and they was sort of in limbo, is Biden going to reappoint me to Fed governor? There's word on the street that he he delayed the initial rate hikes when they started raising rates because he was waiting to get reappointed Fed chairman. So people are saying he delayed by one meeting the rate hike because he wanted to get reappointed, and if rates were lower and the economy is going, that makes Biden look good, so he's more likely to appoint him. So the reason I want to bring that up is because it just points to the abject moral hazard that exists in the Federal Reserve central banking system and the fiat banking system. Is you literally have one dude who just wants to keep his job, not doing what he probably should have done under the context of, I mean, the fiat monetary standard shouldn't exist. The central bank shouldn't exist, but like under the context of central banking, like what he should have done was raise rates. But because he wanted to keep his job, he delayed that rate hike, which could have effect on the economy overall. Maybe it allowed inflation to run a bit higher than it otherwise would have, and just really acutely highlights the insane nature of the current central banking system, where one man who wants to keep his job can have an undue effect on billions of people around the world.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
Yeah. So beware, freaks. It's centralized third parties. Humans are emotional creatures. They have wants, they have needs. One of those wants is to keep your job. Jerome Powell wanted to keep his job, so he delayed rate hikes, which again probably led to higher inflation than otherwise would have been. Or you can make the argument. Who knows what would have happened. Last but not least, end on this.
That's probably the reason why we didn't hit 200K by conference day, right?
Yeah.
It was all that.
Jerome Powell wanted to keep his job. Asshole.
Thanks, Jerome.
So it looks like the World Economic Forum and the UN are officially like teaming up. Let's roll this clip, Carr. Turn it up. 21-second clip.
This afternoon, the Secretary General and Klaus Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum, will witness the signing of a memorandum of understanding on a strategic partnership between the UN and the World Economic Forum, which outlines areas of cooperation to deepen engagement between the two institutions and to jointly accelerate the implementation of the 2030 Agenda. This afternoon...
Yeah. So the UN and the World Economic Forum are officially joining together in a partnership to accelerate the 2030 Agenda that you didn't ask for, you didn't sign up for. All these politicians and these alphabet soup agencies and organizations and think tanks are trying to force you into. You are a slave to these people.
They should just combine acronyms and make it UNWEF.
Yes. UNWEF. UNWEF.
UNWEF.
UN should be disbanded. You see the new building they're building? Car, look up the UN new building construction.
Are they building it in Austin?
I don't know where they're building it, but
It's just really impressive. You guys have built the crypto capital of the world over there.
Crypto capital. Get the fuck out of here. This is Miami. This isn't Miami, sir.
I'm just the lead up to the WEF conference that you guys are holding.
I mean, the UN new building construction is not. It's in Africa, it seems.
Senegal.
But that is like really not helping the optics of them being demons. You can see an obvious 666 there. So are these like say part of being a Satanist and the occult ritual is that you're very.
I was looking really close with the 666. I see it.
Yes, there it is. And so like part of it being a Satanist and a demon and an occult, part of the occult rituals is that you mock God and humanity by just being outwardly aggressive with your signaling. This may be one of those signals. I mean, I call these people demons a lot, and they're not helping their case in this. The construction of this building looks a little demonic to me. That's all I'm going to say. Okay.
There's 666s, right?
Yeah. It's just a rotating 666. And it's ugly as fuck. Like, come on. Somebody builds, like, what happened to the days of building cathedrals? What happened to the days of building ornate, beautiful buildings? That's just some demonic.
That's one of my favorite accounts on Twitter.
Which one? Kelly Lannon?
Wrath of Non.
Oh, Wrath of Non. I've had the pleasure of DMing with Wrath of Non in the past. He's an extremely kind individual.
I've never spoken to him privately, but he's great.
Yeah.
Great Twitter account.
Incredible Twitter account. All right. I know you got to go.
Yeah, I got to hit the road. I got to drive 4.5 hours to,
good luck with that.
To a celebration of love.
Oh, send my love.
We'll do. Yeah, I got nothing.
Other reminder, we're going to be spinning off RHR into its own feed in the next couple of weeks. So prepare yourselves for that. When we do that, we're going to
Not ready yet.
I know it's not ready yet, but prepare mentally to do it and subscribe, rate, review that on your local app. It's going to need.
Yeah, it'll be available on all podcasting apps.
Yes, but it's going to be a completely new feed, so there's not going to be. It's not going to have. You can't bring the ratings and reviews and
subscribers
from TFTC. So we're going to need a Freak Nation to show up strong and support the show out of the gate and go tell a friend that you know is listening to the podcast to be aware of the feed switch. And we'll talk about it here again, probably tweet about it as well, right in the newsletter. We'll hit you from all angles, but prepare. If you're not liked or subscribed to TFTC already, like what the hell are you waiting for? Just go do it.
And Citadel Dispatch.
And Citadel Dispatch. Let's go.
Oh, I moved I couldn't get the CTV BIP 119 conversation for this week, so it's going to be on Tuesday
with Rusty and
Shinobi. It should be a great conversation. And we're going to talk about the whole Lightning consensus stuff too. Bolt 12, blips, bolts. Be a fun one.
Is it a blip or a bolt? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, speaking back to the World Economic Forum, like A16Z, CoinDesk, Consensus, a bunch of other people in the crypto space are teaming up with WEF to like drive narrative of how to.
Yeah, they're going to have, the WEF is having a conference, a crypto conference in Austin.
The Mayor Parker Lewis is not happy about it. Okay. I think everybody in the mining industry is like, "Oh, you're talking to Consensus, right?" I'm like, "No, not after last year. Last year they put me on some like environmental panel, and they thought I was going to be like, yeah,
What was that, digital? It was virtual. at
yeah,
that
it
point,
was
right?
virtual. I just, I did not fall in line, did not cede to their frame, and I don't think they asked me back because of that. Or maybe they just don't think I'm worthy, which is totally possible as well. All right, enjoy your drive. Drive safe. We'll be back here next
Freaks.
week, freaks.
The price might be dumping, but we're not done yet. Stay humble, stack sats.
Peace of love. And the price like pumped a little bit since we last talked about it. It's at 36.